Welcome to the NBAV podcast. Welcome back to NBAV, the NBA Avenue podcast, where we are up to the 6th episode of our NBA Summer League series. The Summer League series is where we take one team. We're going through all 30 teams, but we do one team at a time, and we talk about all of the prospects who played for their Summer League roster, every single player. We talk about who is going to be the ones who have a chance to make it in the NBA, and then at the end, we give our overall NBA Summer League prospect rankings. Currently, before we get up to our 6th team, and today's episode is going to be all about the Indiana Pacers, an interesting team to discuss for sure, which we'll get to. We have our current rankings, which are number 1, Jet Howard of the Orlando Magic, 2, Tristan da Silva of the Orlando Magic, Tyler Kolek of the New York Knicks, Springer and Keita at 4 and 5 from the Celtics, Jokic from the Knicks, Luke Travers from the Cavaliers, and Jay Huff from the Orlando Magic. I don't know how many we're going to add to that list, but some of those players will definitely be supplanted, maybe by players from today or maybe by players from future episodes. So we will start with the Indiana Pacers. And what's very interesting about the Indiana Pacers overall is they took a very interesting strategy. They built their entire Summer League experience around one player. They took Jarace Walker, a player who got some NBA experience and even got to play in the playoffs due to some injuries, and they basically said, hey, Jarace Walker, you are more of a wing player, but we're going to have you as like a 2-guard, and we're going to basically now play you at the point. And they based this entire Summer League experiment around Jarace Walker and to his ability to see if he could be a creator and if he can do more, because they feel really strongly about Jarace Walker being a good productive player for them. So they essentially based the entire Summer League around him, and they said, you're going to be running this team. And they didn't have a classic point guard run it, which is a very, very interesting, risky move. And let's go through all of the players on the 2024 to 2025 Indiana Pacers NBA Summer League roster. So starting with Georgi Bezanishvili. I don't remember him getting any playing time. Then we go to Kendall Brown and Enrique Freeman. These two players, I nicknamed them the Afro Bros. They both had these mini afros, and it's sort of hard with when you're watching NBA games, players stick out for different reasons. And when a guy has an afro, you're like, okay, I know who that is. That is, Jarrett Allen. Like Jarrett Allen was a guy who had an afro for a while. You see them, and their hairstyles really stick out. Freeman and Brown were both like long, springy type guys. They're both literally 6'7". And their weight is, for Kendall Brown, it's listed at 205. For Enrique Freeman, it's listed as 206. So these guys look very similar and had similar hairstyles. And for the most part, they couldn't separate themselves based on their play. Here and there, each of them would have a nice play. But in Summer League, something that you have to maintain, you have to keep in your psyche, is that throughout the course of a game, each team is going to score minimum 70, 80 points. And in some games, there will be far more than that. There's going to be buckets going both ways, and some players are going to score those buckets. So if you watch and you're focusing on the players who score, you're going to have everybody getting at least one good basket per game, or at least a lot of people. So when you see Kendall Brown and Enrique Freeman make good plays, that's good, but they were few and far between. They didn't do a great job at separating themselves from the pack. Then you have Samson Froling, another guy who didn't really get much playing time. Then you have Johnny Furphy. He was a player who was projected to go mid to late first round, and he ended up not getting picked until the second round, all the way at pick 35. So he was 5 picks into the second round. He dropped, and it wasn't really expected. And I actually found myself liking Johnny Furphy a lot. From the beginning of Summer League, he was being found. The ball just kept finding him for open threes and dunks. And he had an incredible wherewithal and understanding of where to be, what to do, what was left on the shot clock, how much time was left, do I need to get a shot up? And the way he moved around screens and caught and shot the ball catch and shoot reminded me so much of Klay Thompson, where he would curl around the screen, the ball would find him for three, and he would immediately shoot and score. Very, very impressed by the second-round pick, Johnny Furphy. Then you have Quentin Jackson, a guy who had some bounce, a guy who really wasn't trusted up until the last game when Jarace Walker was no longer playing. Quentin Jackson was, frankly, a guy who I wish they would have started at point guard for the entire Summer League, but they took this strange strategy of starting Jarace Walker really to lead the team at point. And that's something we'll get to more as we get up to Jarace Walker. But Quentin Jackson, a guy who showed incredible spring and bounce and scoring ability, but really only in the last game when he was actually given the time to shine. Then you have Josiah James, didn't do very much. Lance Jones didn't do very much. Then you have Dakota Mathias. Dakota Mathias is a guy who is really up there. He's 29 years old, for a summer leaguer, that's quite old. And he's a sniper, a three-point shooting sniper. Then you have Jemani McNeese, didn't do very much. Tristan Newton, and I highlighted this guy because he would make a nice basket here and there, but he had this incredible habit of falling on the floor. Whether he shot a three and then would fall on the floor to make it like he was fouled, or whether he would fall on the floor trying to play make, he was always on the floor. It was really hilarious that you could even pick up on that watching only like 4 or 5 Summer League games, but he was on the floor a lot. Then you have Ben Shepherd, another three-point shooting sniper, a guy who played more for this Indiana team already, and frankly, he didn't do enough. I would have liked to see him shoot more so that we could get a better sample size, but Ben Shepherd, another three-point shooting specialist. Then you have Oscar Tshiebwe, an undersized guy who likes to really play that power forward center sort of position, but he's only 6'8", and he's wider than he is tall, but he has nice shooting touch. The player who he kind of reminded me of was Grant Williams. Now, Tshiebwe is a little bit bigger than Grant Williams, but Grant Williams was that same similar type of player in college where he had that touch. Now, he is not as forceful as Oscar Tshiebwe is. Tshiebwe made his living on the glass, and he also has that touch from about the foul line area like Grant Williams did. And then Grant Williams sort of struggled when he got to the NBA because he wasn't shooting that well from three-point range. So Oscar Tshiebwe doesn't try to shoot from three, but he has that sort of two-point component, and ultimately he's probably a little bit undersized, and he's going to struggle to really make a living for himself in the NBA. And then you have Jarace Walker, the aforementioned, a guy who they really based the entire Summer League experience around. And I think it was a big mistake because Jarace Walker proved that he is not a playmaker. What he is good at is he'll get the ball at the top of the key, and if the defender sags off him, he can take a few dribbles, he can take his foot and poke it in, pull it back out, pretending like, is he going to drive or is he going to shoot, and then take the shot and score it with pretty high efficiency. But that's his move, is he'll hit the three if you give it to him. He's slow off the dribble, he's not a good passer, a limited offensive game, he can't really cook and get to the basket very well. He's pretty much a one-dimensional player, and he relies on his hands for defense, isn't super quick, in any way. Offense, defense, he's not a quick guy. And he shouldn't have been playing point guard. And that is why this team really didn't do very well in Summer League. They lost a lot of games. They went down big in a lot of games. They weren't super competitive. And the only teams they really competed with on a high level were teams that had poor rosters. So I think that this experiment was really a fail. I would have loved to see them give Quentin Jackson more rub, because Quentin Jackson is a guy who reminded you of a De'Aaron Fox with his speed and his burst. He was a guy who reminded you of a Colin Sexton, the point guard from Philly, who I literally have seen play in person a bunch of times, and his name is Tyrese Maxey. Very similar to that ilk of player. He has that kind of potential, I think, if he would have got the chance to show it. But he's 25. He's been out of college. He's been out of college for 2 years now. And by next season, who's to say if he's going to already be at 26? Who's to say that they're really going to give him much more playing time when they already kind of gave up on him now? And they had Jarace Walker, the 20-year-old, running the show, and he's probably not going to quite get it done. So Jarris Walker, ultimately, what I would say is a failed experiment. And then you have Trey Woodbury, a three-point shooter, a small guy with really light blonde hair. He got a little bit of playing time sort of near the end. There you have it. There is the entire Indiana Pacers Summer League roster, and we'll try to rank these guys now. I would say all the way at the top, it's a tough call. Do I go with Jarris Walker despite his shortcomings because he still might potentially be the best that they have? Or would I go elsewhere? I would say Johnny Furphy, number 1. That's where I'm going to land because Johnny Furphy had a great understanding of the game, and he's a rookie, and he showed a lot for a guy who didn't get picked until the second round. Very impressive. I really liked what I saw from Furphy. After him, I'm torn between whether we should take Jarris Walker, who we know is going to get the opportunity in the NBA, or Quenton Jackson, a guy who I think is maybe the better player, even though he's much older. I think we'll put Jarris Walker at 2, and then we'll put Quenton Jackson at 3, because he had limited opportunity compared to Jarris Walker, and Jarris Walker is 5 years younger, and he's going to have more opportunity in the future as well. Ultimately, do I think Jarris Walker has enough to be a really good NBA player? No. Do I think Quenton Jackson does? Maybe, but I don't think he's going to get the opportunity. Johnny Furphy, I think, has all the opportunity above all of them, and he has the feel and the understanding of the game and the skill set to really translate to the NBA. After that, Kendall Brown, Enrique Freeman, I didn't see them do enough to make me feel like they have a real shot. Tristan Newton, Ben Shepherd, Dakota Mathias, they all showed things in spurts. Oscar Tshiebwe, I don't know if he's really going to make it. I would say it doesn't really matter after Furphy, Jarris Walker, and Quenton Jackson. I would say those are the only 3 real highlight guys who I want to highlight, guys who I want to mention and bring up. And the rest of them, I just don't know if we saw enough in this summer league to really make an impact. For the sake of ranking it, I would put Tshiebwe, I guess, at 4. We'll put Tristan Newton at 5, Kendall Brown and Enrique Freeman after that, and then we'll put Ben Shepherd and then Dakota Mathias rounding out the pack. From this group, I'll put Johnny Furphy up in our rankings. I'm going to put him ahead of Jay Huff. I'm going to say Johnny Furphy is going to be the one guy who really stood out, and we say he's a guy whose skill set is just going to translate well. He's probably going to get the opportunity at the NBA level at some point. I'm not going to put him ahead of Luke Travers. Maybe I should. You know what? I really don't know. Where does Furphy belong on this list? For a guy who is a rookie right now, is he above Jacobaitis? You know what? I think we're going to have to put Furphy a drop higher, and we're going to move him right below Keita from the Celtics. So we're going to go Jet Howard at 1, Tristan da Silva at 2, both of them from the Orlando Magic. Then we'll put Tyler Kolek at 3, the 2 Celtics, Springer and Keita at 4, 5, and then we'll put Johnny Furphy at 6. Jokubaitis has more of a bag off the dribble, but Johnny Furphy in the catch and shoot is very impressive. So we'll put Johnny Furphy at 6, Jokubaitis at 7, Luke Travers, good old school player, at 8, and then Jay Huff at 9. And of course, over time, some of these guys are going to get bounced out by other players. But there you have it. I would say Indiana did a very poor idea, a failed experiment where they put all their eggs in one basket with Jarris Walker. Ultimately, I would say it didn't pan out the way they wanted to. They got confirmation that Jarris Walker has a limited offensive game at this point, and he doesn't have the speed or the intangibles that makes you think that he's going to really do something incredible in the NBA. So they kind of didn't work out. I would have liked to see more from other players, but they put all their eggs in one basket and ultimately didn't work out for them. Of all of these teams so far, I would say that the Pacers were the second worst. I would say the only team that had a worse summer league was maybe a third worst. I would say the Bucks were the worst. The Cavs and the Pacers were kind of 2 and 3. And then I would say the Celtics, Knicks, and Magic were much better, specifically the Magic, and then maybe the Knicks after that. But the Celtics have some players to show for it, so they're all kind of in that same class. And then the Cavs and the Pacers on a lower level, and then the Milwaukee Bucks on a way below level, a really horrible level. And there you have it. Like always, we're your source for a great time every time. And until next time, we are out.